Today's episode, I'm really excited about because I am going to talk about the 6 empty nester roles that keep us stuck. Well, not all of them, one doesn't, but 5 of the 6 keep us stuck in a life that we are settling for. And it's something I'm very passionate about and I like to teach. And I am teaching it. In fact, it's going to be part embedded in my upcoming free training series called Awaken Your Inner Spark. Because a lot of this we're asleep to, we're just not aware of it. And so, understanding the role you're playing is step one to breaking through the fog we're in, honestly, that we're allowing ourselves to live a life of mediocrity, wanting more, but talking ourselves out of it. And I want you to have a better life. And we're all a work in progress. I don't have all the answers, but that's why I dedicate myself to personal development. And I'm always constantly growing. And when I learn something, I want to share it. And these identities are identities I came up with. They're roles that I realized through myself playing them in the past and through working with my students who I see playing them. And once they are aware of the behaviors that are associated with the roles they're playing, then they can change it and they can elevate to a role that actually takes them to a non mediocre life, to the life that they desire that they don't even know they want. That's what a lot of us do. We don't even know what we want because we're so busy living in the mediocrity and accepting it. So I'm going to go over these 6 roles. I do have a quiz, so you might even have taken the quiz. And I love it when I hear from people who have taken the quiz. And like somebody just commented on the quiz a couple days ago, and she wrote, "You nailed it." And I love it when people get awareness from taking that quiz. And then they can understand, okay, at least what's the next little baby step I need to take? So after listening to these 6 roles, if you haven't taken my quiz, you can either take it by going to, I think it's notyouraverage.grandma.com/quiz, or empty nester quiz, it might be. I'll put it in the show notes, the link in the show notes so you can get the right one. But I'm also going to be sharing it in the upcoming training. And I'm going to be going in detail about these roles and talking about other blocks that are happening. Even once you identify these roles, there are other blocks. And I talk about how to make those blocks visible. Training 2 is all about making the invisible visible. So I'm very excited to bring this training. I'm always doing these free trainings. Well, I do them, I don't say always, but every like 3 times a year. And what I always am doing is making them better, tweaking them. And so I've tweaked the title and I've rearranged some stuff and added some new stuff. And so I'm always trying to make it better so it will shift more in the participants who are taking it. And I get lots of great comments. So I know it does shift. And so if that's something you're feeling that you're needing, that you are perhaps living a mediocre life and trying to convince yourself you're not, and you should be happy with what you have. Well, if you have those feelings, even if they're intermittent, they're valid. So stop denying yourself a better life, a happier life, a more fulfilled life. And so that this episode is specific about learning what these six roles are, but at a high level, because I don't want to spend a lot of time. I do that in my training. And if you're interested in the training, you can sign up at notyouraverage.grandma.com/awaken. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. So let's get to the roles so you can learn what they are right now. The 6 empty nester roles that are keeping us stuck. Well, 5. Like I said, there's 5. And there's a 6th one that we all want to strive to be. And so I'll go over these fairly quickly because, like I said, I'm doing a training. And if you're more interested in that, you can sign up for the training. But yeah, these I say empty nester roles, but they really are more than just empty nester roles. I say empty nester because that was, I was in an empty nester stage when I got the awareness that I was stuck and that I was living a mediocre life. And once I moved into the sixth role, which I'll talk about in a second, once I moved into that sixth role, which what was not a stuck role, and I started to go after what I really wanted to do and change a career, change the things, understanding what fulfilled me deep inside, and actually stop suppressing it and went after it. Guess what? Then all these identities came to me because what I was passionate about was helping people once I was unstuck, get unstuck. See, a lot of times our passion and our purpose comes from our experience. And we think, oh, we made mistakes. We think, oh, our past defines us, and then we have regrets about it, wishing we had done things differently, and really criticizing ourselves. When in fact, we are wiser for it, and what we learned can help other people in some way, shape, or form. And just having that awareness is life changing, because when you have awareness, your ideas start to come to you. You start to receive ideas. It's a gift to you once you have awareness, what role you're in, what you're struggling with, and that there you don't have to stay there. And so once I got out of that place, the creativity started to come, and I started to realize, oh my gosh, there's patterns here. The other people play these roles. It's not just me. We get stuck, and most of us who are empty nesters recognize it. We know something's wrong once our kids leave. And it's not to say that people who aren't empty nesters don't recognize it too, but I'm just speaking from the place I was at, and I was an empty nester. And so a lot of people can relate to me when I use the empty nester terminology as part of my story. And a lot of us who are empty nesters think our kids were our purpose. And so when we lose that, we think that's it. That keeps us stuck. That thinking keeps us stuck. And we think, well, there's no options. And so just being aware of that is helpful. But if you can't relate to the empty nester term, don't let that stop you. Because if you're feeling stuck, and honestly, it's mostly when we get to midlife. It's just that at midlife, or maybe a little thereafter, since some people have kids later, but it's that transitional point when you're kind of moving into a new chapter, a new stage of life, and you start to examine where you are and perhaps why you're not as happy as you thought you'd be at that point. So that's why I use empty nester, just to frame that in case you don't have kids. If you're feeling it, if you're feeling the some uh, I call it the thoughts of what if, or is this all there is? What if things were different? What if I had another job? What if my kids were still here? What if I could go back in time? And then is this all there is just that feeling of looking at what you don't have that you desire. But like I said, you don't even probably know what you desire. It's just that you know that it isn't what you're doing. That where you are in life is not, when you get to the end of your life and look back, where you wanted to stay or be. Meaning, is this all there is? If you're thinking that, you'll end up with regrets. And so this this mini training that I'm going to do right now, that and the broader, deeper dive that I do in my upcoming free training series, Awaken Your Inner Spark, the identity that you're walking around with and operating from, the role you're playing in life, has so much to do with the actions you're taking or not taking. And so let's learn. Let's start by learning and gaining awareness. You might see yourself in one of these roles off the bat, but my quiz will tell you which one you are. And I do get asked the question that sometimes somebody will get one and they'll think they're more the other. And, your gut honestly knows. Quizzes aren't the end all. Your gut knows. And sometimes you are operating and switching between two different roles. So at work, you might be one role, and when you're at home, you might be another role. Or on the weekends, you might play a different role. We're playing multiple roles. And we are good multitaskers too. So usually us women, and we're doing all the things. So when you if you're multitasking on several things, you're probably switching roles. But a role of a mother, a role of a wife, a role of a daughter, a role of a sibling, grandmother, those are all roles we play. Worker, employee, boss, neighbor, these are all different kinds of roles. So, number one role, and like I said, there's 6, 5 are stuck, and the 6th is not stuck, is the one that we strive to be. So I'm going to go over these in order that I have them listed on in my notes here, and it's really kind of the order in which well, let me say this. The first one is probably the worst one. I'll say that and I'll explain in a second. And the last one is the best one. The ones in between, they all have different aspects of being stuck. I wouldn't say one's lower or higher than the other. They're kind of all even. But a lot of times people ask, well, do I have to move to the next role in order? Is it like a sequential journey upward? And it's not. It's not. You can jump from 1 to 6 very, very quickly. All right. And there's 2 aspects before I get to the roles. There's 2 main aspects that affect us in a way that you need to shift. So these 2 main aspects, there's a lot of things and behaviors associated with these roles, but there's 2 main aspects that really impact your happiness. And so those 2 aspects I talk about in my training, but what I'll tell you they are is, and I'll give a little bit more color around it in my training, but how you treat time, because when you're stuck, you mistreat time in many ways, and how fulfilled you are, the feeling that you're fulfilled, and how you treat time is different depending on the roles. But I go into that in detail. I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to spend an hour here when I'm doing an hour training. So if you want to do the training, I'd love to have you. All right. So scared settler is role number 1. So scared settler, I played this role. I know this role very well. I was stuck, I would say, in the scared settler role for, I know, at least 3 years of when I knew I needed to change my life drastically, but I was too scared. And I just sat there in limbo, not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to upset the apple cart. And I just got more unhappy and got more upset with myself for not being happy. Like, why am I not happy? I have the fancy cars, I have the big house, I have the great job that pays a lot of money, I have the nice husband, kids that are successful in college at the time when I started this 3-year journey of being a scared settler. But yeah, I was scared and I was settling. So the scared settler is really too scared to do anything. Knows she needs to do something, probably. And I have a lot of people who take my quiz are scared settlers. And hopefully you're the scared settler who is on the verge of being ready to take action. But there is a long period of inaction that precedes that action. And usually it comes to terms with, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. I don't want to wake up on my deathbed and realize I didn't do the things that I wanted to do, or I didn't take action on the thing. I just stayed in inaction. And that usually is what drives the initial action. And this doesn't have to be drastic action. A scared settler can simply take action by signing up for a free training, listening to a podcast, tuning in to somebody that motivates them and inspires them. But it's positive action towards change. It's not action of calling up a girlfriend and complaining. Not that kind of action. Not the kind of action of turning on a TV or scrolling social media. Unless you're actually watching a positive video. It's inspiring you to take further action. So that's a scared settler. Busy doer, and the busy doer is busy bee. Very, very proud of that. Was me too. I was a busy bee at work, and often my work spilled into my home life. Workaholic. So if you're a workaholic, you're probably a busy doer. And the problem with the busy doer is that behavior suppresses your desires. You have no time to think about your desires. You have no time to think about what is preventing you, what change you need to make. In fact, your busyness might be, you might be intentionally, your subconscious, intentionally suppressing the fact that you need to make a change. But the busy doer is typically exhausted, but also is, remember the multitasker word I said? Prides herself on being a multitasker. I wore that as a badge. I can do it all the things. But yet, everything that I wanted that I didn't even know I wanted was being suppressed by my busyness. So the next one is overwhelmed winger. And this is one that I didn't have when I originally did the quiz, but I saw and I knew there was a role in behaviors that weren't being covered in the original 5 that I did. And then I finally, after helping people and actually talking about the behaviors in my program, the Second Half Spark School, I was like, this is there is another role here. And believe it or not, this is the second highest that people get. Scared settler is number 1. Number 2 is overwhelmed winger. So an overwhelmed winger is somebody who wings her way through life. And she's overwhelmed by it, but she does nothing about it because she likes spontaneity and she prides herself on spontaneity. But to some extent, you can still be spontaneous, but you need to set your priorities. You need to set boundaries, and you need to say no to people, and you need to say yes to the right things. And you just have to do a little planning. People think planning's a bad word, but you're overwhelmed because you're not focused. And when you're focused on what's important and what needs to be done, and understand that you can still be spontaneous in the process, then that's where you shift. So knowing you're an overwhelmed winger and why is key to the awakening that you need. The next is distracted dreamer. This is one that I never was. I say I was like all the roles, but this one I wasn't, but I recognize it. And I recognize it because in a way I wish I was this, because I probably would have moved faster. The distracted dreamer are the ones that are really, really ready to shift. But they just don't know how to shift. But they have the knowledge of a dream, which most of the others don't have any of that knowledge yet because it's being suppressed. But the distracted dreamer has dreams, but she just doesn't think she can have the dreams. And so she's very distracted by her dreams because she thinks about them a lot, but she dismisses them a lot. And it distracts her from the passion that she deserves. It distracts her from moving forward and finding the passion she deserves, the fulfillment, one of those aspects. And as far as time, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little clue with her. She wastes time dreaming because she's not acting on it. If she was acting on it, wouldn't be a waste of time. But I will say she is doing the right thing by dreaming, while the others aren't doing enough of that. And then the last stuck role, the fifth of the five stuck roles, is organized planner. And the funny thing about the organized planner, and I love her because I was her too at work. This was me at work. I was a busy doer, but this was like where I told you can like have two roles and you kind of switching back and forth. But I had an aspect of me of the organized planner because I planned. I had my priority list. I had my to-do list. I even went to the Franklin Covey class to learn how to organize your to-dos, and how you have an A group, a B group, and a C group, and then you number within those groups, and C's or they can wait till later, and A's or you got to do them today. And I mean, I knew I had all that. I loved it. I had my Franklin planner book. I was the planner. And if you looked up a picture up in the dictionary, that was with my little Franklin Covey book. We even had a Franklin Covey store in the mall that was by my house, and I loved going there. And an organized planner does love to go to stores and look at the planners, and often will try out a few, and get the one that she likes the best. So I did that, but I actually invented my own after several didn't work for me. But that's another whole story. But the organized planner has a false sense of fulfillment because she gets like an adrenaline hit from doing the planning that makes her feel good to check things off a list. And she feels, unlike the overwhelmed winger, she feels very focused, doesn't feel overwhelmed because she has a plan. But the problem is with her, it's a false sense of fulfillment because she's working on the wrong things. She doesn't have the right things on her list. Now, they might be the right things for her job, but is her job what really fulfills her? For most of us, no, it's not. What's outside the job? If you happen to have a job you love and fulfills you, it's like your purpose. Fantastic. You probably have organized planner aspects, but you don't make the mistakes of the organized planner. You don't fill your to-do list with things that don't fulfill you, with things that are other people's priorities. That's what they are, other people's priorities. Being unaware of what matters to you and your priorities. And so coming up with your list is so, so important. It's like if you took these stuck people and kind of combine them, there'd be aspects that would be good, right? Like the overall winger being spontaneous. An organized planner is less spontaneous, might even not like spontaneity. So there's positive aspects, but the behaviors, the stuck behaviors, are keeping you, if you're playing these roles, stuck. They are watering down the positive behaviors, and they can't blossom. How's that for an analogy? And the sixth role that we want to get to, all of us should, I say should because hey, if you want to accept a mediocre life, that's you. That's on you. You go ahead. But the reason we should strive to be the sixth role is because when we light up, the world around us lights up. our light shines on the people around us. And then the people around us become like night gnats or whatever those things are. You know how the little bugs come and attract on the porch light at night? They're so annoying in the summer. I have to keep my light off when I go to let my dog out. If I have the light on, it's like I get attacked by bugs. But when you show up as this sixth role in life, that's what people do. You become like this magnet because you are showing your best version, and that's attractive. And it's attractive to especially the people that you align with, the like-minded tribe. They find you. They find your light. So the sixth role is sparked soul. Because when you're sparked, you're connected to your soul. And that's part of the work. And that's part of the awareness, is to reconnect with who you really are. That soul that came here and inhabited this body, we are disconnected from that soul by being stuck. So that's why we should strive to be a spark soul. And I call it specifically a spark second half soul, because I'm speaking to the people, the empty nesters, the women who have gotten to the place where they're heading into the next chapter and they're thinking about the rest of my life. How do I want to spend the rest of my life? Is it this way? I hope now you're at the hell no stage if you're feeling that your life is a little average. And are you still trying to convince yourself that that's okay? You have more than somebody else? Well, yeah, you probably do have more than somebody else. But you can have more and not feel guilty about it. And that's one of the problems, is too much guilt that we carry with us as mothers and children of, like, if you're a child like I am, of a mother who's in assisted living, it's tough. We feel guilty when we're living our life and we're not spending time at the assisted living home. But you should still want more for yourself. And there's no guilt in that. There should be no guilt in that. There should be guilt in accepting mediocre, because that's what you're showing is okay to your children and to the people that you love that are watching you. Whether you like it or not, you are a role model. When we get to this age, we are role models. Whether we have kids or not, we're role models. People look at us. They think, oh, I either want to be that when I get older or I don't want to be that. And I want to be in the former category, not the latter category. So how you are operating day to day, the behaviors that you carry with you, there's all associated with a role you're playing, an identity that you are living from. And the good news is that we can change that. We can't change who we are inside. But the problem is that we're living misaligned with who that person is for the most part. If you're stuck, you're not aligned with the person who you're supposed to be. So you're not even like showing up in the identity you're supposed to, the true identity of who you are. And that's what I dig into a lot in my training. We start with the understanding of, like, what is the problem? Why are we stuck? Well, one of the reasons is these roles and the behaviors associated with them. But there's other blocks. So what are these other blocks? And what is it we really want? We know we're stuck, but then we question, what is it then? Maybe if I knew what I wanted, then I would be a little bit more motivated to get unstuck. But how do I know what I want? How do I know what that is? How do I get to that feeling? And we talk about that. You get a lot of clarity. I actually even do a visualization that is pretty cool. A lot of people get a lot of insight in that part of the training. So if this resonates, I think that the training that I'm doing upcoming, when this airs, the registration won't be open yet, but there is a wait list. So notyouraveragegrandma.com/awaken. And you can get on the wait list and you'll be the first to know when the registration opens. So the actual training is going to be May 30th, 31st, and June 1st, 3 days. It's going to be a pre-recorded video. In the past, I've done live, and this time I'm not doing lives. And speaking of overwhelmed wingers, if you're a busy doer, overwhelmed winger, you're likely gonna sign up and then not attend. So warning to you, busy doers and overwhelmed wingers, put it on your calendar. Don't miss it. Life-changing. Seriously, you're gonna learn stuff that's gonna really shift you so you can move out of these roles, or at least start recognizing when you fall into those roles. I still fall into the busy doer role, but I know it when I do it and I correct it quickly. These are habits, patterns that we've developed. So that is what's happening. In the past, I've had a Facebook group, and I'm not doing that because I think that creates more overwhelm. So I'm really thinking about, how can I get this training out to people in a way that doesn't overwhelm, and a way that can fit into their busy schedule. And so that's my tactic. That's the format. And I think it's going to be amazing. And we'll still have ways to interact. I'm still going to do a live Q&A with the participants. So that'll be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and doing this in a different way than I've done in the past. So I hope I see you there if you are feeling like this could help you. See you soon. Thank you so much for tuning into the Living Your Spark Second Half podcast. If you'd like to watch my guest interviews, you can find the video version of this podcast on my Not Your Average Grandma YouTube channel. Also, you can check out what I have going on at the moment by going to my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com, or find me on Instagram or Facebook at notyouraveragegrandma. If you like this episode, please mention it to a friend, and don't forget to leave a review so I know the topics you like best and can bring you more of that content in upcoming episodes. Last but not least, remember to always listen to that inner voice that will never steer you wrong, and make living from the most sparked place possible your biggest priority. When we do that, we make the world a better place.